This is Vivo's new V30 mid-range phone from them with the Snapdragon 7 Gen 3. The phone has three 50-megapixel cameras. The front-facing camera, it's ultra-wide with autofocus, something you don't typically see. We have the Aura light on the rear of it with an ultra-wide and then main camera that has optical image stabilization. Battery capacity is 5,000 milliamp hours with 80-watt flash charging, which charges the phone in well under an hour. And my version that Vivo sent out to me does have 12 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of UFS 2.2 storage. The screen is 6.78 inches. It is an AMOLED screen, 120 Hz is the refresh rate, and peak brightness, Vivo's claim, is 2800 nits, which is a lot. And let's have a look at what we do get included with our V30. So there is some paperwork here. You can see there's a warranty and important information. There's a quick start guide and a TPU case is included, which does fit it perfectly. Charger, this is the UK one, and you can see that this is their flash charge. So the maximum output of this is 80 watts, and we do get a Type-C to Type-A cable. So the model that Vivo sent to me, this is the Waving Agua color, and you can see why they call it that, because this rippling effect you see behind this, which is, I believe it's glass on the back of it here, they call it fluoride AG glass, is looking, like waves really. You can see that, and it's got a bit of a shimmer effect. Now at the top, you don't see it at all, so it's like a gradual effect there. Now you see with our cameras, we've got that Aura light again. There's a big focus on this again. And then we have two 50-megapixel cameras. So the main camera with optical image stabilization, and then our ultra-wide, and a dual-tone LED flash. But this whole thing does light up. And this is what it does look like. Now you can adjust the white balance too of this Aura light, which goes all around the outside, as you can see here. So up the top here, you'll see that it states professional portrait. There's a microphone, the frame around the outside here. This is plastic, but it has a glossy metallic-like finish to it, making it look like it's metal. We've got our buttons here, so volume up and down, power, good location of them. I can easily get to that power button. See the fingerprint reader location. This, to me, is a little too low. I've mentioned this before in my other videos of, say, the V29 series. I just wish they would move it up to about here, but it works really well. So you can see, I'll just check that again. Great. Optical fingerprint reader. Very good. So we've got curved glass here with our screen, which is 6.78 inches. And this is an AMOLED screen, 120 Hertz. Resolution is 2800 by 1260. So it looks sharp. It's very bright. Up to 2800 is the maximum nits there. And you can see now in daylight, it does fare really well. No problems making it out. So it's a bright screen, looks good, curvature to it. Okay, I wish it was a flat screen, but in hand does make it feel a bit better. And for triggering and using those gestures does help a little bit, the curvature to it. So front-facing camera here, this one is, again, 50 megapixels, and it does have autofocus. So very good selfies out of it. You'll see later on from my samples. Top and bottom bezels could be a little slimmer. And down the bottom here, we've got our SIM tray, which takes 2 nano SIMs, microphone, Type-C port with an 80-watt fast charging maximum, no video out. Downwards firing loudspeaker. Yes, they are still doing that. Only a single loudspeaker. Come on, Vivo. So there's no loudspeaker here in the top and the earpiece like what pretty much every single other brand is doing. So very good build quality. I love the best part about this phone, just how light it is and how slim it feels. So great build quality, even though yes, it is a plastic frame. So we've got a few options here with the display. Now, by default, the resolution is not actually set to the maximum. I've forced it to the maximum here, but it's 2400 by 1080 is the default. And a lot of people probably wouldn't even realize that and go and change it. But I've forced it to the maximum for my review all the time I've been testing it. And I feel that, you're paying for that resolution of screen. It really should be set by default, but if you want to save a little bit of battery life, lower it down. But at normal view distances, do you notice the difference between that resolution on the highest setting and then on the top? You don't really, but it looks just a tiny bit sharper to me. when you really focus on that screen. You're not going to see pixels anyway with it at all. Refresh rate is by default on smart switch, so it'll choose the best according to the situation and your power consumption and whatnot. But I like to, again, force this to 120 Hertz, and I've noticed that everything is very fast, smooth, and fluid. You've got options there for your white balance. You can go and change that if you want, which is really good. Touch gestures are working really well, and overall, it's a great screen that Vivo has selected for the V30. So the phone, as mentioned, is running FunTouch OS 14, and I don't dive deep into Android OS because I think most of us already know all about it, how it runs, a lot of the features and whatnot, but it is very smooth, very well optimized, very fast, fluid, no issues at all. The 12 gigabytes of RAM is helping out, and the performance, it just seems to be very, very good for a mid-range chipset being that Snapdragon 7 Gen 3. Now, they've got their own app store now, which is called the App Store. I mean, they've had it for a while. It's nothing new, but they just seem to be really forcing us to try and use it. And I'll talk a little bit about that now because when you first get it, there's a lot of bloatware on there. I mean, a lot. But they have this hot apps and hot games, which is part of the V App Store, okay? And when you use it, you even see ads inside it, which is not really good. They have obviously advertising that brands can use to try and push their apps through that. And you'll see that. So this is the hot apps, the hot games, which you can disable, but it's a little tricky. You have to go through the V App Store to get rid of it. And then when you're using it, this is going to happen. When you disable it, it tries to get you to enable it again. I just find this approach to be a little bit too aggressive. Vivo, I think you need to tone down on the bloatware, and you need to just tone down on pushing your own app store so much. Most people will stick with Google Play. It's what they know and they love and they've used for years and years and years. Why would everyone suddenly swap over to their own app store? Anyway, battery life. Did my fixed test. This is a fixed looping test from 100% battery down to 20. Went for 13 hours and 1 minute. Phenomenal result. Really, really good. So that was with Smart Switch on for the refresh rate. Need to point that out. I forgot to disable it. Well, I forgot to force it to 120 Hertz. So this means if you do run that, you're going to get a good result with battery life. Realistically, about 9 hours of on-screen time. It is really quite good. Just how well the battery does perform with this. Because of that mid-range chipset, Snapdragon 7 Gen 3, and the fact that it's got a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, which, by the way, charges in 37 minutes from 16% to 100 in my test here. So very good charge times at the 80 watts from what the charger does support with their flash charge. And a benchmark result here for Antutu, just getting over, well, close to almost 850,000 points. Not bad for a mid-range chipset. So it feels a lot like something like the Snapdragon 870, 865, kind of around there, or Snapdragon 888. So an older kind of flagship performance, but for mid-range, it is very good. Widevine level 1 cert, so Amazon Prime Video, Netflix is in full HD, which is good. And we do finally have camera 2 API does show us we've got level 3 support for all of the cameras. Again, that's another positive there. So that loudspeaker, just a single one, sadly, down on the bottom. Now, I don't understand Vivo at all, why they haven't gone with a hybrid loudspeakers. So you've got your earpiece that doubles as a secondary loudspeaker at the top. Most brands are all doing this. In fact, I'd say pretty much everyone is now. Really apart from Vivo or some other like super budget kind of phones that would only just have the single loudspeaker. Now to compensate, I can see that Vivo's turned up the volume or cranked up the volume on it. So it is a loud single speaker, but the quality of it's not really that good. So it's the big downfall really of this phone is that the loudspeaker quality is not so good. You'll hear from this track though that the volume's fine, but it just could sound a bit better. Gaming performance is really good with the Vivo V30. No problems at all. Even with the Snapdragon 7 Gen 3, while it can play Genshin Impact on the top settings, 60 frames per second, you get a few frame dips here and there. Depends on the areas that you're on the map that you will see just a few stutters here and there, but it is good. And the best part for me is the thermals. It doesn't really have a powerful enough chipset to get itself really hot, and the cooling in it is great. So I haven't noticed it getting extremely hot. It's just warm to the touch. So much so that I don't need to break out my thermal imaging camera because it just gets a little bit warm around this area where the chipset is. That's it. So thermal's very good. Gaming performance are a lot better than you'd think. And over to our video quality now with the V30. So front-facing camera can shoot 4K 30 frames per second, no 60. And as you see as I walk along here, that we are getting a little bit, quite a lot actually, of shake. That's because there is no electronic image stabilization with 4K with the front-facing camera, which is a bit disappointing here. But let's have a look at the 4K rear quality now. This does have optical image stabilization and electronic. So as I'm walking ahead, you can see that the footage is still quite steady. It seems to be able to remove most of the little jolts and tremors when I walk along. And just panning here, the quality does look good. Now, difficult conditions with the sun so low here with sunrise, but it seems to handle it well, not too bad. Now I can apply some digital zoom here, but because I'm shooting in 4K, I can't go over to the ultra wide. So this is now 2 times digital. You can see there's a little bit of grain. The quality has degraded somewhat. I'll just go back to 1 times, and now I'll show you the ultra wide footage. So this ultra wide is only 1080p. You can't shoot 4K with it. It's using electronic image stabilization. The quality is definitely the worst, I think, with the video performance. It's not a great lens or sensor for video, but at least we do have that option if, of course, limited to 1080p. And looking at our stills now, so selfies, this is the rear camera, definitely is the strength of the V30. Even indoors with that aura light, photos come out really good. And this is the front-facing camera, 50 megapixel selfie, again looking good, good stitching, lots of detail there. This is the ultra-wide camera. The photos tend to look good. White balance is pretty much spot on. I've noticed that using the natural preset. This is now the main camera. And another shot with the main camera looking reasonably good. A little bit overcast the day. And 2 times digital zoom, okay, not so good. It looks a little blurry, but a little bit washed out. And this is another main shot with the 50 megapixel optical image stabilized camera. And it looks good. Look at all those different shades of red there with the hibiscus flower. Then low light performance, very good. I think it is definitely a lot better than I expected for a mid-range phone. The low light performance tends to be as good as what I've seen from a lot of flagship phones. Overall, this is an excellent mid-range phone. I like what I'm seeing with those cameras, especially the low light performance. Well, that actually beats a lot of flagships that I've seen. Really good and punches way above its weight class here when it comes to the low light performance. And then the main photos look very good as well. Portraits, they're decent too. Video performance, well, there's a bit of a complaint here from me that ultra-wide video is only 1080p maximum, even though we have a 50 megapixel camera. Front-facing 4K video, well, it doesn't have any electronic image stabilization, so you're going to have to use a gimbal if you want smooth footage for 4K with a front-facing camera. Otherwise, you need to drop it down to 1080p. One of the other things that I don't understand why Vivo is still doing this is we have a single downwards firing loudspeaker, no dual loudspeakers. I mean, come on, Vivo. I really do believe they need to just make it a hybrid earpiece/speaker. Now, other brands can do that. I don't see why Vivo cannot. I hope they can fix that. And my other complaint is the bloatware and their own app store just being pushed a little bit too much. I hope that Vivo can ease back on that. Gaming performance, very good for a mid-range phone, and the thermal's great. It doesn't really get that hot at all. In fact, it just gets warm to the touch, even when you game for a few hours, which is great there. Really good battery life, nice bright screen, the UI is fast, the performance is all fluid, so it all checks out there. There's just those minor complaints from me. So that is the Vivo V30. Thanks a lot for watching this review.